tree?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this is a red oak, and we're going to be planting 2 of these trees tomorrow.
Okay.
This is a beautiful tree at maturity, and it is not native to California. However, these are the kind of trees that we're planting now in Fremont. I just thought I'd tell you that you probably are aware that our expected climate in 70 years is to be that of San Diego. So not only are we planting drought tolerant trees, but we are planting trees with an eye towards climate change. This is a tree native to Texas, and it can withstand hot, dry summers. And it's a deciduous tree. It's beautiful. It changes to this color in the fall and is green. And it supports lots of insects and wildlife, such as birds. And this tree can live to be 600 years old.
Oh.
When we plant trees like this, we are affecting generations that these trees will be around if we plant them correctly and they're cared for. They're going to be around for a long time.
What kind of tree is it?
A red oak.
Red oak.
This is another oak. This is native to California. This is the coast live oak. This is the most dominant tree that was in this area before man came. It's essential for insects and wildlife. It has over 350 varieties of moths, butterflies, and birds and animals that rely on this species. So putting these back into our urban forest is really good. And these trees live to be over 350 years old. The last oak that we're going to be planting is called the Quercus lobata, or valley oak. And it too was here long before man, and is a spectacular tree that you might see driving up the valley oak and the coast live oak, like this one you see as you're driving along 680 into Pleasanton and stuff, tucked up in the hills. And these are fabulous big trees that can live 400 and 500 years. So it's kind of exciting. And then the 4th species will be a strawberry tree that we're going to be planting. So these trees are going to be for our children's grandchildren to find shade under. Okay, now let's get to the presentation, because I know you have a lot you want to get to do this evening, I'm sure. So let me go up here and hit it from the beginning. So we're going to be talking about planting trees. So we're all kind of on the same page on Saturday. So I'm going to go through these steps with you. And you'll see there's a reason for the steps. First of all, why is it important for us to do things correctly? This picture shows a tree that was planted too deeply, and it got the Phytophthora that you often hear, sudden oak death. It's a rot, a fungus, and it often occurs when a tree is planted too deeply. This is showing roots, a root-bound tree coming out of the can, like we're going to be handling a 15-gallon can like this. And if this was dropped into a hole and planted like this, here's what would happen in about 15 to 20 years. The tree in a wind situation would just suddenly fall over, because these roots girdle and strangle the tree. They continue to grow. So we certainly don't want that. So before we dig the hole and establish, now I know the holes are going to be pre-dug, but before we put the tree into the hole, we need to assess the roots to see how deep the hole needs to be. So we're going to take the tree out of the can by tapping on the plastic. We're going to each planting team will have a tarp, and you'll shake the tree or tap the tree, pull the tree, whatever out, and make sure the good potting mix that comes with it lands on the tarp, because we're going to incorporate that back into the hole around the roots. The tree should be of sufficient density to hold the roots mass together, but sometimes they're a little too much. This tree's probably about ripe, so we need to do some work here because, again, just like when you're transplanting tomatoes or other things, you loosen up those bottom roots that are wrapping around and around the bottom. You really don't want that. So something that's kind of funny, though, is that we actually go further than you go when you're planting flowers, vegetables. And this should also be done with any shrubs that you're planting. So we're going to carefully remove the dirt, soil from around the roots and expose them fully, because deep inside of this ball can be those encircling roots that are so bad. And we're going to be using something called a root pick that I have here. Each team will have one of these to carefully break apart those roots. So take your time with this. Make sure you get the roots that are wound up inside there and kind of spread them out. You'll also, each group will have these clippers. And if you find a root that's circling around, you're going to definitely need to cut it off. It's best for the tree, believe me. Okay, so again, no encircling roots. The planting hole, now that we have the tree out of the can, we can see just how tiny or how big the root system is, because of course the cans are all the same size, but maybe the red oaks have a massive root system just as tall as the can, and maybe the valley oaks are shorter. We don't know until we take them out of the can and see. So if the hole is dug too deep, you're going to adjust the bottom by making this very firm by maybe stomping on it and getting it firm here, because the big problem is that no matter what you do, if you put a tree into a hole that's been dug deeper, it will sink over time, because the soil just gives in and the tree ends up getting lowered. And the most important thing is we want the root flare to actually be above the ground. Most people might suspect you'd put the soil up here where the trunk becomes the root, and plant it right about here, but that's a major problem. You don't do that, because this is the prime area for crown rot and where trees fail. So that and the encircling roots are the two major problems with trees when they're planted. So we're going to avoid that. So here's a picture of them. One of the quick and easy ways to tell just exactly where is the soil level, because it's hard to tell when you got a big hole here. So you lay one of the posts will have across, and then again, make sure the root flare, see how this flares out here on this picture? Make sure that is above the ground by 1 inch to 1.5 inches. And you see, this is actually a root here coming out. That's good. We want the roots to show. So this is way too deep, right?
Yeah.
And if you plant it high, it won't die. If you plant it low, it won't grow. And so don't want to see that on Saturday. So after we've got the tree at the right height, we're going to, of course, take the material on the tarp that came out of the can and blend it with some of the native soil and work it in around the roots gently. One person can hold the tree up at the right height across, where the pole is. And then the other 2 or 3 people can gently place the soil around the tree. And make sure your tree is nice and standing straight up, and then backfill around there. Then we're going to create a berm. The berm is very important for making sure the water, all summer long gets to this root ball that's under here, and it's going to take months to grow because right now the tree's in shock. We've removed the soil, so we want to make a nice berm and make sure that it gets a good drink. So here you see they're working on the berm, which is as big as the root ball. So picture the roots underground and just make it that big only. As the tree grows, it's good to, slightly push back on the berm and make it larger. Like if you have a tree in your front yard or backyard and you're taking care of it, then as the tree grows, the berm grows until it's no longer necessary. So for the first couple of years, a berm is really nice to for a number of reasons, and I'll talk more about that. But now water goes into the hole. We're going to have a water truck there, so hopefully it'll be really convenient for us to get the water to the trees just as soon as you create your berm. And when the water goes in, check for leaking that comes out, and then take your hands and firm this up, kind of like a oh, I don't know what I hit here, but firm it up. Let me stop this for a second. I'm going to stop this share now. Share screen. I'm going to go back to this for a second and share. And so I think let me go through these quickly and catch us up back to where we are supposed to be from current slide. Okay, so after we've made the berm and watered the tree, we're going to stake the tree. And stakes perform, the functions you may think. They protect people, kind of, especially when you have a tree that's not very big, kids and pets from running into the tree, but mostly for wind in the park where we're planting it. So we're going to be putting in these 8-foot poles, and they're too tall to put the tamper on, the pole driver on, when they're standing straight up. So you lean the pole and then put this on and then carefully raise it up. And depending on your height, you might literally just hang on those lower bars there and kind of get it to go in the ground somewhat. And then you pound it down. It takes a lot of upper body strength. We have hard helmets. We're going to have a person that's on the team to do that, and we'll just have the adults participate because this is the most dangerous thing. If this were to fall on somebody's toe or head or something, these are very heavy. So we want everybody back from the area when you see a pole driver going, and also of course no children right in the vicinity. We don't want any accidents.
Mamta was asking why we had a waiver. That's why, Mamta.
No, I wasn't asking why we have a waiver. I was asking what is the waiver for?
This could be dangerous in children's hands. So parents, so anyway, so where do we put the tree ties? We're going to tie the tree up to these stakes. And so this diagram shows that he's bending the tree very gently, and where it kind of bends, that's the part that's going to receive the tie. And it's interesting with trees. They kind of remind me of human bones because you don't want the tree too tight. If it can't have a little wiggle room in the wind, and just move a little, then it doesn't develop a nice strong trunk. And the roots as well, they need just a little pull on them to make them grow stronger and faster. So we're just doing a loose tie with a little bit of wiggle room. Now I have some ties here. I'll show you after the video when we go back to full measure how this looks. These are just different size poles that you can buy depending on your tree. We're going to do a figure 8 pattern around, And this demonstrates that. And there's a better picture coming up. The poles will go 10 inches out on either side of the tree. And on the site, I'll show you where the prevailing wind comes from in that park. And you want to put the poles at a right angle to the wind. And so that if you have a wind coming this way at you, you want the poles here, not like this, so that the tree is on either side kind of protected from the wind. There's more to tree planting than you think sometimes. Okay, so here's that figure 8 that the girls are putting in, and they're going to nail the tie on. And you don't put the tie, you leave the head of the nail here poking out a little bit so that the ties can easily be removed after 2 years. About the tree should be, should have grown and be strong enough to just do without any kind of staking. So
Lynn,
these
is that
are
something that we need to buy? Because I know that's not part of what's coming from Ogawa's, or does you guys have that?
Well, Geeta and I talked about that right at the beginning, and yes, the nursery, she was negotiating for the price to include the stakes and ties. So there's
We have the stakes and ties, but I don't know if we have the nails that you're going to be wanting to use.
Oh, well, typically they come in the package with the tie.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, just for each tie, one nail, just like you see here. It has a nice big head on the nail. And so we'll have the hammers there. And you guys provide the ties and the poles. And we'll have the stake driver, we'll have the rest of the equipment. So after the poles are in and it's staked, everything's set, and then we put the mulch around the base of the tree. And this is how not to do it. Murder by mulch. Because again, that shows it piled up around the trunk, and that will cause that rot that I talked about. So we don't want that. We want what we see here, which is no mulch around the base, so that the root flare is left open to the air, and the mulch is actually over the berm and piled up there. And the purpose of the mulch serves many purposes, especially in a park where we're going to be planting the trees. Number one, it keeps the soil moist, right? It protects it from the sun and heat and keeps the tree roots moist or longer than if it was just bare soil. Number two, it keeps the weeds from growing back, and those weed roots compete with the young roots that are growing from the tree and can take away valuable nutrients and just kind of smother the tree. Some weeds, and get way up. Where we're putting 4 valley oaks. Today I was out there with a weed whacker taking the weeds down. They're about 18 inches tall. So there are weeds, and this will stop them from growing. Then the last thing is it looks nice, and it's kind of a visual cue not to run into the tree along with these poles. And and a major thing is it provides nutrients. The wood chips break down, and the best kind of mulch, if you're mulching at your home, is to use whole tree mulch. That means it's got, like from the rigs that come around to do tree work that have leaves in it. And that is more valuable than just pure wood chips, and certainly way more valuable than buying bagged wood chips, because this contains all kinds of nutrients that feed the soil. And that's one of the things of young tree care is replenishing the mulch over time to keep it nice and thick. And then we're done. So I'm going to stop this share, and we're back. Here is the tie. So there's a pointy end and the just slides in here. So we're going to wrap it, in the figure 8 you saw, put put it through here and then nail it in place. It's pretty straightforward. Any questions that you can think of?
Just want to recognize Allison was here and CV. Do you go by CV? I think he's in Hilda's
Yes.
CV. Good to
Yeah,
see
his
you.
name is Jeff, but he goes by CV.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm logged into my phone here,
Cool.
which is a different login. So, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Great. Well, I'm glad you guys are here, and I hope those who have attended will be the ones that have the most, knowledge and remember. And I think we'll have, we're gonna have like somebody you can check with and ask if you have a problem. We're gonna have a TUFA, like little helper for each group, or almost each group, if not for every group. So they might go back and forth between two groups. But I think it's going to go really smoothly and we'll be out of there. I was at the site today and they have put piles of mulch ready for us to scoop up in our buckets and put around our trees. And then we'll be providing the water. So I think we're going to be looking good. It's going to turn out really nicely. And I just think that this is the most important kind of volunteer work you can possibly do, because these trees are going to sequester a lot of pollutants and carbon dioxide, and we need to just keep doing this, planting and planting trees. And that's happening, as you know, all over the world. People are trying to really get trees in the ground and turn around our doomsday scenario we're headed for.
Lynn,
So,
what is TUFA? Can you explain to everybody what TUFA is?
TUFA stands for Tri-City Urban Forest Alliance, and we came up with Tri-City for two reasons. One is we are part of Tri-City Ecology Center, and they've been around for 42 years. And some of you high schoolers may know they give out eco grants for different projects. They're really good about supporting projects that young people do that are environmental. And so TUFA is a branch, which is funny to say, of that ecology center. So, and because they're called Tri-City, we thought we should stay with Tri-City, but also because we want TUFA to grow to service Newark and Union City. But right now, the members of TUFA pretty much are all Fremont residents. And Fremont is such a huge city, and we have so many problems with our urban forest. So we want to plant trees. We want trees back in our neighborhoods where people seem to be removing them at record speed now as the neighborhoods age and the trees age. And because the city turned the tree care over to homeowners back in 2008, a lot of people are not enthusiastic about planting trees, and they see trees raising sidewalks and all kinds of things. So it's an uphill battle to get trees back in neighborhoods, but they perform so many valuable functions. For every dollar spent on a tree, you get $5.80 some cents back in benefits, everything from mental health, walking on streets, tree lines decreases the temperature outside. They support our wildlife, especially if you're planting native trees, which should be planted everywhere we can plant them.
Lynn,
We have.
Lynn, I wanted to make sure we have some time for questions. Because
Okay, I know I could go on about trees all night.
But I was just wondering, where is the meetup area?
Oh, yes, that's important. That is, are you familiar with Old Pine Park?
Yes.
Right in the parking lot. Just come into the parking lot and you'll see a table set up there. The trees we're planting are in several locations, all quickly accessible from the parking lot. So once you're there.
How many trees will we be planting?
10.
Okay.
We're going to plant 4 coast live oak, 2 valley oak, and 2 red oak, and 2 arbutus, which is sometimes known as strawberry tree. And that tree is, it's smaller, but it's perfect for one of those parking lot islands that is blank there. So all these trees are near the parking area, so it'll be convenient for getting mulch from them. And we'll, we'll have everything you need there.
One more question. Are you able to send us the PowerPoint so we can take a look at all the,
Hilda.
pardon me?
I'm gonna send it to you on YouTube.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Did Allison or CV or Juhi, did you guys have any questions, or Sam?
No?
Okay.
I'm assuming that there's like the information of like where we go to get to the park and stuff like that is all contained in the flyer or in some material that was sent, right?
No, it actually isn't. We didn't put any of that in there.
CV, do you know where Fire Station 4 is at Pine and Paseo Padre Parkway?
No.
If you put that old park into the computer, you'll get the address of 1000 Pine Street.
Let me do it right now.
Okay,
Yeah, if somebody could just zip that off to me as an email or a text or something like that, so I have it captured somewhere.
I'm gonna put it right on the screen right now, so it's part of the PowerPoint. So let me,
Meanwhile, I can say they have some really nice restrooms right there, so
oh, good.
that's nice.
okay, so.
It's a nice little park, but it does need more trees.
See that?
Yep.
Okay,
I got
So if you're coming down Paseo Padre, you turn on Pine Street, and from Pine you turn on Iburo Street to get into the parking lot.
so this is where the parking lot is.
See this Iburo way?
okay, yeah.
That's the parking lot right there.
You're coming from Niles?